Hi, I'm Denise, and I'm here for Lost in Sound with Jenny Sauer-Klein, and we're at Wanderlust in Stratton, Vermont, 2014. And I'm curious, I teach yoga, and I teach yoga at festivals, and we end up practicing a lot of AcroYoga, or variations of partner yoga. And so I'm really grateful to get to meet you and take your class. And some of the questions that I have is, I'm wondering, what is your background that led you to develop
Well, I grew up in New York City, and so I grew up seeing Broadway shows and theater and dreaming big, and was really inspired by the theater, so that was my first love, and dance. So I danced from like 5 years old on throughout my whole life, and then did a lot of musical theater, and went to school for musical theater, so I have a BFA in musical theater, so I was singing and dancing and acting my whole life.
Right.
And then in college, I discovered yoga. And that was like a really big opening because it was a way I could be in the joy of my body without competing, without learning a routine, without the theatrical stuff around it. And that was really liberating and beautiful. And then after I graduated college, I was traveling around Central America, and I learned how to spin poi. So I was doing fire tricks and all kinds of cool stuff and more circus. And so when I got back to New York, I took a yoga teacher training. I was teaching yoga. I was teaching circus arts and after school programs for kids. And then at a certain point, my life was really cruisy. And I was teaching so much yoga, and I was in this like really wonderful bubble. I was like, I feel 45. Like I feel like I need to like mix it up. I was at 24. And I was like, if I'm gonna make this circus thing really happen, then I should do it now while I'm young and my body's in good shape. And so I decided to move to San Francisco, where the Circus Center is, which is basically the best acrobatic training center in the country. So I moved there, and it was within the first 3 months of moving to San Francisco and studying at the Circus Center that I got introduced to Jason Nemer. And literally the first night we met, we were like, oh, let's play, I'll show you this, you show me that. And like AcroYoga was born. So I had we were both yoga teachers. I was already teaching partner yoga and some of the flying work on a more therapeutic level. And I was teaching kids circus, so I was teaching basic acrobatics. So Jason was a yoga teacher, but he had like a 20-year elite level gymnastic and acrobatic career as a competitive performer. So he had the really high level skills. So when we came together, it was this really cool melding and meshing. Like we had so much in common and yet so much that was complementary that we could learn from each other. So it's just instant trust and respect and rapport, and like, you teach me, I teach you, and then let's throw this all out on the table and teach it to other people and see what happens. So that was kind of the backgrounds we both brought in to create AcroYoga together.
what involvement, you are co-founders.
Yes.
What involvement do you have at this point in AcroYoga?
Yeah, actually have very little. I left the organization officially last year. I felt like I was really proud of everything that we had manifested through AcroYoga, but I also felt like there was something more and different and new I was being called to birth again. So that was quite a process to like let go on that level, but also in some ways like a relief and freedom, because it's a huge community to hold, and there's just always things coming up. You really have to like, what decisions do you make? So at this point, I teach AcroYoga at various conferences and festivals. So that's still one of the main ways I'm involved. And then I'm still really good friends with a lot of people in the community, and I do my best to advise or support when anyone comes to me. But otherwise, it's more or less, Jason's steering the ship, and then I think me stepping away also gave a lot of space and room for other senior teachers and mid-level teachers to step up and step in. So it's now literally a community practice being held even more by the community. So it's actually pretty cool, and I think it was perfect timing for me to be able to walk away and see that we had trained enough people and the message and the values are instilled and in the foundation enough that now it can be carried by so many people in a really beautiful way of integrity. That for me feels like a great success. Yeah.
And so what you moved on to was the movement blueprint?
Yes. Yeah. So the movement blueprint, basically I took a year-long business program last year, and at the very beginning of the program, the guy who's my teacher, the coach, he was like, you should teach people how to lead movements because that's what you did. And I was like, oh, that's funny. Like I couldn't really see it. I couldn't see AcroYoga as a movement because I'd been in the center of it. So it's when you're in the center, you don't feel the ripple as much. And I mean, I knew it was a big thing, and then I didn't know how I would possibly teach people to do what we did because it felt so organic. So I wasn't really willing to come to terms with that for like 6 months. I had to chew on it. And then come to realize, yeah, we did start a global movement, and I'm not sure how I'm going to teach people that, but I'm willing to be an inquiry. So I've been in that inquiry of developing and looking back and basically reverse engineering what was an organic process into a step-by-step model. So now most of the people that I work with individually, so I work with a lot of clients one-on-one, and I basically, my best leverage point is to meet them. These are like usually the founders of their own method or technique or practice that they want to get out there in a bigger way. And I reach them when they're at the point where they cannot meet the demand anymore for their own body of work. So they can't personally supply anymore. And so I come in and I help people create their training programs, their certifications, because it's an awesome tipping point, and it requires a lot of logistical forethought, but also emotional and spiritual. It's a birthing process. And so to hold space for that, something that's been coming through you, and it's your baby, and yet you want it to have a life. And so how do you navigate that process of still maintaining quality control and at the same time letting it be free and have its own life? So that for me is a really cool process. So that's where I work with a lot of people in that tipping point moment of like sending out your emissaries and letting the message have its own life.
Would you say that as sort of like the development of AcroYoga, which probably began as something very organic that was rising between you and Jason, and then you stepped back from that organic to kind of codify how to get to that point?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say the first couple years were just massive play and experimentation. Just literally the kitchen sink. Like, what do you got? What do I got? What does this person think? How does this work? And trying so many things on different bodies and different forms and structures. And then finally realizing like, oh, there's a system that's emerging. You know, and I think that system will forever be developing. You know, now it has some really codified forms, and we have the manual and sequences and all of that, but I think it's a process that's never over, and that's a good thing. Like any art form that has integrity should continue to evolve by the people who are practicing it. And that's what I like about AcroYoga, is that like we're kind of creating a framework, and then everyone who plays with it is a co-creator in the process of its evolution. So it's fun to see new people's energy and ideas, because they come up with things I would have never come up with. And it's cool, like I don't have to do it all. You know, and that's a relief, and that's inspiring. And it was cool to just sit back and be like, it's a good thing if my students surpass me on some levels, and I just support them. It's like if I give them a strong enough foundation, then it's trusting their creativity to birth the next level. So.
At what point in this process would you say that you started utilizing the metaphor of AcroYoga for interpersonal relationships?
Like day one? I don't know if I was as forthright about that. Like that was always my undercurrent. But in the beginning, since it was so much of like a physical playground, we were just trying to work out the nuts and bolts. And I think as the nuts and bolts have become more steady, I feel like there's been more room to now bring in the deeper layers of meaning. And also as the community matures, because in the beginning, people are just so jazzed and they want to all the cool fun tricks, and that's their focus. And then after you've done that for a couple years, you realize that the practice has changed. And you mature a little bit and you soften a little bit, and then you're like, okay, but there's not only can you grow this way in terms of your skill set, you can grow this way in terms of your spiritual capability to meet the practice, and how the practice transforms not only, you know, your life on the mat, but your life with your friends and your family. And I've had so many people say to me, you know, like, this practice changed my life. I never said I love you to my mother before. Like, you know, it's just their lives, their relationships radically change because they feel connected. They feel like they have a place where they belong. They have a family that they never had. I mean, that's true for me too. Like, that's a lot of what AcroYoga gave me, was a place of belonging that I never had before. So I think that's a really special element that it offers a lot.
from my experience of taking AcroYoga classes, it seems sort of like that team building kind of element has been prevalent in every class I take. We start out with different icebreakers and then end with different ways of coming together. Is that something that you had integral all along?
Yeah, that's very intentional because, you know, a lot of people say, oh, that's couples yoga, or is that for girlfriend and boyfriend? And it's like, sure, it can be for that, but our focus is always on community. Our intention is always to say, every person in this room is your partner. And so when you start a class or a workshop with that kind of like, hey, we're all here together, and just to create that openness and sense of connection with everyone, that we can mix and match and play, explore together, and that everyone is here to support you, it just creates a much more open, receptive, joyful environment, and that's where the community connection happens. So for us, it's about building community, not just therapy for couples, you know, which it can be too. So it's both, but yeah, it's really fun.
And you choreographed the Spectacular.
Yes.
Could you give your perspective on what your vision was?
Yeah. So my vision for the Spectacular was really to honor Wanderlust motto, which is find your own truth. And so I really was ripping off of that and to say, okay, how can we take people on a journey where I basically use the chakras as a backdrop, and to say basically there are these 7 gates or 7 rites of passage, and at each rite of passage, our main character or the audience are earning these like guideposts. It's like, this is how I can make decisions, and this is how I can know that I'm in integrity with my true nature, is by having these values in place. So from 1st chakra to 7th chakra, we choose, we have trust, passion, integrity, love, truth, mindfulness, and unity. So those are the 7 pieces I chose. And then we really wanted to create more of a storyline and more collaboration, so there's a lot of interaction in the show. We have a bunch of group numbers this year that we co-choreographed together. And it's still really visually stunning, but it also has meaning. And for me, the most important thing in a show is to make people feel something in a deep way. It's like, yeah, I want it to be amazing, and I want your jaw to drop, and I want it to be visually stunning, but if I haven't hit your heart, I haven't done the job. So that's really the intention, is to like take people on a transformational journey with us and leave them more inspired and uplifted and empowered than they were when they walked in the room, and to create a very engaging, interactive show where it's not audience and performer. So it's not like we're doing and you're watching, but it's that we're co-creating an experience together. So I think that overlays a lot with the AcroYoga thing. It's like, yeah, I'm the teacher, but actually we're all doing this together.
Facilitator.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you feel about being
I'm really happy with it. You know, it's funny because I was working on that show for 6 months in my mind, and on phone calls and writing, and then I only had 2.5 days to put it together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was fast. So it was like bam, 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 bam. And now having seen it once, it's like, yay, I'm so happy. There's so many things that worked well or better than I could have imagined. And other things where I'm like, cut that, slash that, redo. So I'm revamping the whole show for the next round.
You'll be doing it at the various
It's at every festival. Yeah, it's at every one of the summits. So, but I don't have another big rehearsal period with them, so I have to figure out how to like.
Do you have all the same people? At
all the same people. Yeah, all the same people. So it's interesting. It's awesome. I love this, the creative process of, you know, you can't jump a step. You have to give it your all, bring it to fruition, and then only from the fruition can you see what the next step is. Sure. You know, and so it's like, yeah, certain things I have to cut and change, but I wouldn't know that if I hadn't done it. You know, so it's a cool evolution of seeing like, oh, now, and I'm sure if we continue to do the show for many months, it would continue to change as well. We'll see how far we get by the end of the tour.
Have you worked with Wanderlust before?
Yeah, this is my 7th year on tour with Wanderlust. I've been with them from the very first Wanderlust in Tahoe. So
how have you seen it evolve?
Yeah, much bigger.
Yeah.
More organized. You know, the first one was kind of chaotic, as any first year festival is. But really developing the relationships with the staff, with the founders, with the creative directors, with the other teachers and presenters. There are those of us that have been doing this circuit for a long time, and we have our own little sub hangout crew, which is really sweet. And you know, I think that they've done a great job of establishing the values of Wanderlust and what this atmosphere can create for people. Like the students here, and I've taught at a lot of festivals, conferences around the world, and these are my favorite students. They They bring it, they're ready to have a great time, they say yes to everything. They're super enthusiastic and receptive, and we just go. There's no convincing, there's no like warm up, it's just you're in. And it's such a joyful.
I felt that way.
Yeah,
Last
right.
day, we just did it.
Everyone's just there, so it's just a joyful place to teach. It feels really like fulfilling and satisfying to teach here. And I feel like actually, in a way, it hasn't changed that much over the years because that foundation was so solid. It's just gotten bigger and even just kind of like more established in the roots of the intention. So yeah, I actually feel like it's pretty consistent in a positive way.
Yes. And with Divine Play, is Divine Play similar at all to Wanderlust? Or it's just AcroYoga?
Yeah, so Divine Play is pretty much just AcroYoga, so it's the AcroYoga Festival. Actually, a lot of the inspiration for Divine Play came from the Dutch Acrobatics Festival, which is in Holland, and it's been going on for 25 years, every year. And it's interesting the way they do it, they rotate different cities, and in each city there's a team of volunteer coordinators that take it on for that year. That's not quite how we do it, but it was a cool model. But the best part of that model that we liked was that they basically ran out these huge sports gymnasium auditorium facilities that they have more in Europe. And so it'll be this huge gymnasium, and then there'll be mats designating, say, like 10 different practice spaces, and there's numbers there, and then you get a schedule of classes, and you just show up to any class that you want. And if it's too hard for you, you go to something else. If it's too easy, you go to something else. There's no pre-registration to classes. So it's a very much choose your own adventure, and if you don't jive with the teacher, go do something else. And so we really like that. I mean, it's so much easier from an organizing perspective to not have to pre-reg people and have different rooms. So it's also a way of creating more community because you're all sharing the same space. And you can see it as distraction, or you can see it as inspiration. And you're like, wow, what they're doing is so amazing. And to just, you have to stay more focused on where you are, but you can also look around and admire the beauty that's around you. So that was a lot of the inspiration for Divine Play. It was just that really open field and letting people choose what they want. And in the first year, we kept it quite small. I think we started with like 200-ish people, and I think now it's probably more than 500. So it still feels intimate. Yeah. And yeah, it was a big vision I'd been carrying for a couple of years, and finally I was like, we need to do this now.
How many years has it been happening?
I believe it's been 5. I'm trying to think if this will be the 5th. I started in 2010, so this will be 2010. So, yeah.
The Boston AcroYoga School, we did a Boston AcroYoga Festival, which was in the same model.
Yeah.
We were all in one space. And it was nice now. And you could be doing yours while you were kind of waiting. You could be seeing what other people were doing too, and so kind of learn from everything that was happening.
And it's nice because there's like the New York AcroYoga Festival. They're kind of popping up in different places, and that's again part of the beauty of the movement aspect. Is like everyone who participates is a leader, so like go take it and create, and so that all of these micro communities are now coming together in certain moments, like for the national festival, so to speak, within all the local spin-offs, which just help to galvanize the community even more.
Thank you so much for talking with us, and thank you so much for AcroYoga.
You're welcome.
So many of us appreciate it so much.
My pleasure.
And thanks so much.